Thank you for joining us tonight. The title of this program is called Gender Dignity, Unique and Equal. I will be your host, Matthew Francis. The year right now is 2015, and there's been tremendous awareness about transgender and gender diverse issues, thanks in part to Caitlyn Jenner. But that awareness is not translated into acceptance. In fact, in the last year, transgender violence has been up by 33%. When I thought about this program, about what I wanted to accomplish, it was my intention to introduce to you everyday people that live in your community. They may not be former Olympians. They are, in fact, ordinary people who do wonderful things with their lives. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice just to have people come on and share a piece of their truth with you and perhaps challenge the mindsets that some of you hold that unless you understand something or that you cannot treat people badly. I would like you to treat everyone safely and have them be included. So without further ado, I'm just going to go around and we're going to learn about each other and hope that you learn something from this. That's my intention. So we'll start with you, Trieste, and I'm hoping that you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your name, your pronouns, and just a little bit about yourself that you feel comfortable sharing with the audience.
Hi, I'm Trieste Russell, and I use female pronouns. I started transition when I was totally bedridden, and the first 11 and a half years of my being out, I was stuck in. So, I don't know.
Thank you, Trieste. Hillary.
Hey, I'm Hillary Andrioli. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I think I'm the only cis female in the group, minority right here, which is kind of cool. Doesn't happen often. So oh gosh, about myself. So I'm a parent, I'm a mom, and that's really important to me. We live in a gender diverse household. My husband is a trans man who does not want to use hormones or have surgery. And it was, and raising two children, to be accepting and willing to explore and be who they are has been an amazing experience. Being with their friends, some of them who are in transition, it's just an amazing moment, I think, in time where acceptance can be bred. I was raised in a cult, so none of this was an option to me when I was a kid. You're born a female, you're gonna conform to the female role, and you're just gonna take it to your grave with you, or the male role. So since it was really important to me to get out of that environment after I had children, so they could have experiences and really learn who they are as people, and let me learn who they are as people, and that's been just amazing. So yeah, that's who I am.
Thank you, Hillary. Charlie.
So my name is Charlie Johnson. I use he, him, his pronouns or neutral pronouns. So my story was that I was a tomboy growing up, never really had an identity, and I never really just felt one way really or the other. When I was kind of shown when I was in high school, early high school, that it was an option, that there were people who felt similar to me. That's when I sort of started my transition, and so when that was going on, my mom was really, really very supportive, and so she told me that I would be the kind of person to show people that it's not weird, that it's just be an educator on the life that I'm leading and the community that I'm coming from. And so I kind of took that to heart, and that's kind of what's been shaping me go through a lot of my, just what I've gone through the past 10 years, 10, 15 years. And like it just kind of snowballed from being one of the leaders of the GSA in high school to being a leader in the GBLT community in college, and now I'm working on the board of Maine Transgender Network, and I'm on the board of the Pride Portland steering committee, and it's just kind of, I've always wanted to be a kind of person who shows people that, you know, we're just people. We're like everyone else.
That is the intention of the program.
Yeah.
Maya, would you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. My name is Maya. My pronouns are a really funny story. At least it's funny to me after so long. I'm 31. I came out as trans when I was 19 years old, and my pronouns are still in progress. For me, right now, I'm using words like pronouns as medicine to kind of selectively look at pieces of me and heal. I grew up in Mid-Coast, Maine. I went to a really rural high school. I was the only out person in my high school. And that wasn't a safe environment for me emotionally or physically. And so it wasn't until after I graduated high school that I first came out as trans. I was out as gay then. And I was really proud and considered myself kind of like a riot dyke. That was a term that I really liked a lot. And that's still a term I really like a lot, and that feels like home to me. And so, after I left high school, I started really feeling safer to explore my gender. I started biting my chest. I shaved my head. And which was great, and really liberating. And people just started kind of not knowing what to do with me before I had that question.
Okay.
And from there, I meditated a lot. I was like, what am I? And I would try on all these different names and nothing really fit. And Maya is a derivation of a nickname as a kid, and it means me, mine. And for me, that's all I ever wanted to be, and that was the only accurate thing I ever could be. It's just myself. And that's kind of how I've walked through the world. I went on hormones for 3 years, from 19 to 22. I had chest surgery at that time in a shopping mall in Canada, because that was what was available to me as a 19-year-old. And then at 22, I looked in the mirror and I said, this isn't fully me either. For me, I live in balance. I'm a polarity therapist, like positive, negative, neutral, and for a time I ate macrobiotically. It's all about, for me, finding that neutrality and that balance. And I thought, okay, I've gone too far for me. And part of my story also, I realized, was that I wanted to be pregnant and have a child. And so I stopped hormones, and I live in this place now of being physically neutral. And for me, that's nice. It means I can walk through the world and kind of present different pieces of me wherever I fit, because there are so many places that I fit and there are so many things that I am. I'm going by female pronouns right now as a way of kind of going back to the time before I transitioned and looking at the things I need to do to heal there. And so for me, every time I hear my pronoun, I'm like, okay, that's the place I am, and that's where I'm gonna pay attention to and love and balance. For me, it's just a constant journey of authenticity and healing.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. And the next question, some of you have already sort of answered. I was curious about when you came to realize this about yourself, and sort of your realization / coming out process. And I would like to start with Hillary about that, or in your situation, maybe just telling us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah.
Anything that you feel comfortable sharing.
I can do that. And Maya, when you said that you shaved your head, I think that's where my story starts. I was 14 years old, being raised in a cult. And for a female, your hair is your crown of beauty. And you have to have hair, and it has to be I was a horrible cult member, by the way. Cheers. And I shaved my head. I was 14 years old, and I marched my butt down to the beauty salon, and I said, shave it, but I had like those bangs still. Oh, Lord, it was bad, and I loved every second. And I think that was like my moment of, I want to express myself, my femininity, exactly how I feel. And that was very empowering. I'm not going to say that it was easy to do. I was shunned from a lot of people within the cult. I remember my dad screaming, "Oh my God, I don't have a daughter, I have a son," which was really confusing to me because I was like, it's hair? That was like the most bizarre thing I had ever heard. I'm like, it's hair. So that really is very profound for me within my development, just like expression and how we express gender and what feels comfortable. And a huge piece in why I left, to be myself, to have ownership of me in whatever form that happens to come. So I work fast forward, I work within a mental health agency in Portland, within a behavioral health home. I run a lot of groups. And I think watching people, and it doesn't even have to be about gender, just people trying to come to grips with their individuality.
Sure.
I think we've all been pigeonholed into like these, we have to conform to some sort of norm. And what does that even mean? And being able to stay present with people as they figure out what that means for them. And then my kids, Taj and Zeke, teenagers, who knew? God, I'm old. My kids. But watching them be able to find comfort, like we have a ultimate rule in our house is that you're just comfortable. Be comfortable in your skin, whatever that looks like, however we can support you. Be comfortable. So, there's no gender to clothes. My son was really funny at one point talking about boy clothes, girl clothes, and he just said, "Oh, I didn't realize clothes had a gender." And it was just brilliant because it's that simple for, I think he was 11 at the time. It's that simple for an 11-year-old. Like, what? I'm just going to wear what I feel comfy in, and that's the rule in the house. We express and we're comfortable. So I think, my upbringing was difficult, but it also gave me, it helped me discover who I am as a human, and then gave me the ability to support other people and who they are as people without judgment or trying to no, get back in your role. So I'm grateful.
Thank you, Hillary. Charlie, is there more you wanted to add? You said a great deal, but do you have any specific story you would like to share with the audience about your journey?
I guess when I feel like it's kind of like more of like you were talking about where you came from and like the different things that led you towards the being able to give those sort of the support to other different people. I think that something that has helped me do something similar to that is the fact that my mom was always one of those people that supported everyone. Like, no matter what, you're gonna be happy because like you being happy makes me happy. And my mom supported me even without really knowing all the things that I was going through, to the point where I have a tattoo on my back, and it is in my mom's handwriting. It's a quote from Dr. Seuss, is "Today you are you that is truer than true. There is no one alive that is youer than you." And it was something that she instilled in me as from very, very young, is that you need to be you because there's no one else who is going to be able to do the things that you can do. And I mean, that's something that everyone should hear, because I mean, everyone can bring different things to the world, and everyone can bring different things to the table. And it made me feel very valued as a kid, and that's something that I kind of pulled through as an adult, and it makes it so that I can make sure other people feel valued. And it's something that because I'm a listener, and I like to listen to people, and I like to help people get through the different issues that they're going through, and that's something that trying to make sure people feel valued, and just something that my mom always made sure that I felt. And so
That's terrific. And I met you actually through Maine Transnet because you're a group facilitator.
Yes, I
there,
am. I am a group
and,
facilitator.
Terrific group facilitator, actually.
Shut up.
Very good. Maya, was there more you wanted to add? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, sure. I mean, coming out, it's so funny, you know, like I feel like I'm so visible that I'm like constantly coming out, and I like it that way. But you know, when I was first coming out, I remember, so I was, you know, having discussions with my parents, and my parents are amazing. They've loved me through everything, even when it was challenging for them, you know. But when I had just, like, I think it was like the same weekend, I had like had that discussion with them. My little brother, who is a straight man, he was in high school at the time, he's a freshman, and he wrote an essay about how much he loves wearing dresses. Because he's wonderful, and his printer wasn't working or something, so my dad had to print out the essay. And so my mom says, oh, have you read Jesse's essay? My dad, who's a Pisces, and he's got, you know, these sweet feelings, and he thinks about it. And he says, I have. And she says, and he said, well, at least we still have a son, and we still have a daughter. It's just the other way around. And that was, you know, my family was accepting, my nuclear family, my extended family, not so much. You know, up until last year, I think it was, I saw my aunt and my cousin, and my aunt had forbidden me to see my cousins for 15 years. I wasn't invited to any extended family holiday. My cousins, I saw them in diapers, and then I saw them going to college. That was it. And that was, you know, that was hard. But people choose, you know, they made that choice, and I have to be okay with that, because as far as the way I see it, I don't have a choice who I am. I have a choice to live that authentically or not.
Absolutely.
That's my choice, and I made that choice to honor who I am. When I chose my name, I intentionally chose it with an A, because in our culture, the A is feminine. And I knew at that point that transition was going to be a part of my story. And I wanted always to leave people with a question. Because for me, like, I needed to have my femininity and my origin visible on the outside. And I wanted to have that choice always, to say, oh, yeah, this is this, you know? So to the point where, like, you know, even people in Portland who were like they knew a lot about gender. They would be like, so that's still your name? You know, expecting me to change it. When I changed, I was like, yeah, that's like intentionally still my name. And they're like, oh.
When I met you, Maya, you were going by male pronouns.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I promptly went home and spent a half an hour writing your name and the male pronoun over and over and over. And then the next time I saw you, it was a female pronoun.
Sorry.
I promptly went home and did the same thing.
Yeah, I used to volunteer at an organization that was doing a lot of really cool LGBT work. They did the Out and Allied project, which is now a national project of young people writing their stories and having them turned into performative theater, which is so cool. But when they would orient new interns, they would say, when you see this name, that is a boy. It's like part of their orientation. Yeah.
It's terrific.
Thanks.
Well, and then I think I was talking about you to a friend, a mutual friend, and I didn't know what to say, so I simply just said your name.
It's short.
That's
kept
right.
it easy.
That's right. So, Trieste, is there more that you'd like to add? I'm curious how your family was, if they've been supportive of you.
My family was never supportive of me. I knew that I was different at a very young age, at about 4 years old. And to me, it was my greatest secret. I hid it because any time that it's been displayed, I've been punished. And then I spent 10 years in a children's home where they kept males and females separate. And I knew for sure that I was on the wrong side. But self-awareness is quite different from self-acceptance. And it wasn't until, like I said, I was bedridden a year, and it became just so brightly clear that this is who I am, I'm going to live this way. And I've since got to my feet, and physical progress has been up and down, up and down. Family still won't acknowledge me or admit that I even was in the family.
I'm sorry to hear that, and that's a big dilemma that we have, and that's what we're trying to address, that we are all unique and equal. And do you want, I don't know, to put it in a nutshell, a dead son or a happy daughter, or vice versa? Is that what's important? So I'm hoping that some of you really have had a lot of good experiences. And I'm wondering, I know for myself that being, transgender has really opened up my worldview of self-acceptance and gratitude. And I'm wondering, and we'll start with Charlie this time, as being a gender diverse person, how do you think that it's benefited you? I mean, what are you grateful for about this perspective that it's given you?
I think the two things that I'm like most grateful for is they're just the ideas of resilience and empathy. The fact that this community, I guess I'll start at the beginning of, like, I started going to the main Transnet support groups when I was 19 years old, and I'm 25. And I started growing when there were like 4 or 5 people there, and even though I didn't know any single person that was there, I walked into the room and I could feel like I didn't have to explain anything. And that empathy that I could feel already just like oozing from all of these people was something that, like, it made me feel at ease. It was like a breath after holding it for so long, and just feeling that in the environment. And so empathy is just, it's not just good for the people that you're feeling for, but like it makes you feel better to be able to, sit with, you don't even have to actually like talk about the subject that you have, that you're like commiserating about, but just like knowing that the person there, they just get it, they just do. And even if they don't get it fully, like that they're trying to, and they're trying to be empathetic as best that they can. And so that's one of the reasons why empathy is just, it's one of the core values that I have. And resilience, just like all of the shit that we go through, and like it brings to mind the idea that people say we've chosen this life, and not a single person that I have ever talked to that is in the trans community would choose going through all of the hate and all of the just the harsh, like, culture that a lot of trans people have to deal with. And so resilience, I have not met a trans person who I would not be able to give the qualifier of a resilient person to. I haven't. And we're a tough community, and like a lot of people try and get us down, and because that we've already been going through this this like basically a bog of sadness, like from Never Ending Story. Like, we can get through it. We've been doing it this entire time. Like, whatever happens, we will get through this. Like, mark my words, realistically.
I agree. I mean, I think that we are super resilient, and anyone thinking you would choose it, if you were choosing it because you thought it was fashionable,
right,
you're not going to last. You're just the opposition that you come up against. So, but moving on, Maya, are you grateful to anyone in particular that you'd like to talk about?
Oh God. I'm grateful to so many people. You know, that just like landed like, you know, it's hard because like, you know, I'm genuinely grateful to people for loving me. And I feel like growing up being told that I was such a horrible thing makes me feel like I really need to be grateful to have a basic like human emotion like love or acceptance given to me. Like I don't fundamentally deserve that. That's something that I really I'm grateful to every single person who loves me. I'm grateful to every single person who has listened to who I am or not just looked at me like a human being. I'm really grateful for the perspectives that being trans has given me. I'm grateful, you know, to have walked and been treated in the world like both polar opposite presentations of gender and also a lot of places in between. As a body worker, it helps me to understand just a little bit of the lived experience of the people who are sitting across from me. You know, whether that's what it's like to walk in the world as a female-bodied person and still be hugely oppressed by misogyny and patriarchy, or whether that's going through menopause, which I've done twice. I've learned a lot through living in this container. And I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the people who have loved this container.
Thank you, Maya. Trieste, it sounds like your family has not been supportive, but have you found people in your life?
I'm grateful to so many people. I have a very good support system right now. I have a neuromuscular massage therapist, deals with chronic pain that I've been seeing for 22 years. And my best friend in high school, when I came out to him, he brought over a lobster dinner and we had lobster together.
I love it.
I'm so sad that he moved away. So he was very accepting right from the get-go. I'm grateful for the people that are here. Maya has lived with me for a short time and helped take care of me. Charlie, I've been to some of the drop-ins when you've been there. I really made a good friend, and you,
What up, girl?
And I love you.
You know, I have to be honest that this is the first time I've ever heard of such a celebration that someone presented a lobster dinner to you. I have to just interject this one thing. I mean, I am a cancer survivor, and when I was diagnosed with cancer, I got a plethora of cards. I was told how courageous and brave I was. I was taken out to eat. People brought food over. And then a year later, after all the treatment, I came to terms with being transgender. I got no cards. There were no flowers. There were no celebratory meals. And I'll tell you that this was harder than going through the cancer treatment, in my opinion. And I can say that because it was a year of treatment, and this was harder to me. So I am so excited that someone thought to celebrate this with you.
I've been through cancer myself, and it's tough, especially once I've already transitioned. Dealing with the medical community and neighbors in the building that I live in. Early on, when I was getting to my feet and using a walker, like I'm doing now again, I lost my train of thought.
All right, we'll just hold on to it then.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
Yeah.
Hillary, are you grateful for?
Oh God, I love being grateful. Gratitude is one of my favorite things. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for their friends. It was 3 years ago at Pride. Kids are bouncing around. My daughter had the fabulous mohawk, and just like, we were having a grand old time, and a group of kids came up, and the first thing that they asked with introductions was pronouns. And that was just like the most beautiful moment where I felt absolute gratitude just for the youth that are being raised right now. 10 years from now, I think we're going to be in a very different spot.
Yes.
Like, I just look at my kids and their friends and their families, like, and that I have so much gratitude just for the climate, perhaps, that children are, I mean, there's a lot of rough stuff. Being a kid isn't easy. And Maya, like, how many times, okay, menopause twice, but how many times did you go through puberty? Like,
3.
Yeah. Like, nobody wants to do that. So the kids are going through so much already. I want to get you a trophy. But like, so they're dealing with a lot, but they're also open, and they're so accepting and just amazing. And I love to surround myself with them, and just and I have ultimate gratitude for that. I also have a lot of gratitude. Like, I love my parents. They've since left the cult, but I have gratitude for them, because I think because of the very harsh, like, the harsh binary. It was you know your role. Oh, you know your role. And because of that, it also, I'm a very rebellious person. I don't know if you guys knew this about me.
No idea.
But like, I really, like, so it gave me the opportunity to really explore life and then accept. Like, and there's a crisis worker that works at 50 Monument who, had a similar upbringing. And she looked at me one day and she said, you know what, I don't have to get it yet, but I can accept it and I can support it until I do. And that was just like, oh my God, yeah, like, acceptance, it doesn't have to come from a spot of absolute knowledge, but it's bred from just like accepting and then supporting and holding. And so I have a lot of gratitude for that as well.
Thank you, Hillary. And I agree. For me, it's nice for acceptance, but in my opinion, you don't even have to accept it to be safe and inclusive and kind.
Yeah.
That's not a prerequisite, in my opinion. Now, I often read articles about how to talk to gender diverse people, and often these articles are always what not to say. So I thought we'd put a little spin on this, and instead of what not to say, what would you like people to ask you? And I'll throw out sort of a hypothetical in the sense that perhaps a cisgendered person has never met a gender diverse person, that this is their first encounter. And I think it's fair to say that naturally they're going to be curious, and we're going to come from it at the mindset that their intentions are to be respectful. How would you help the audience? What would you like them to ask you? And I think we'll start with Maya.
Sure. Okay. So this happens to me like all the time because I look so gender diverse that like really like in a room, like you could like poll the audience and it would like come back like that like oftentimes when people meet me, they like do this kind of like gender shuffle where they're like,
oh, I don't know anything about that, Maya, with
yeah,
you.
right. Well, exactly. And I work in an environment that's not like specifically a trans environment or a place where you would expect gender diversity. Like I work in just a regular like bodywork healing arts center. So like people are not expecting to like, you know, meet a trans person. And so, so for me, like I can tell that someone is wondering like, how do I talk to this person and what are their pronouns, and you know, like looking for some sort of anchor. And so for me, something that helps is people just asking, you know, saying, you know, like, what pronoun can I call you by, or you know, like what is your pronoun? And you know, that gives me an opportunity to say, yeah, I'm as lost as you are, you know? And then we've got something in common. And I can say, well, how about, you know, we'll just go with this. And it really, like, I find that really alleviates
Puts people at ease.
Yeah, exactly. Because like for me, like I'm an empath. So like if another person is anxious, I'm anxious. So usually like the way that I can feel calm is by the person next to me feeling calm. And so like if we can kind of work together to just get a baseline, then that's okay. Another thing that's really helpful is if I'm with someone who, you know, like you don't have to know me long to know when I'm uncomfortable.
Sure.
So say there's a person in the room who, you know, I'm not feeling safe around, or who is saying something that's really not okay. Like for other people in that room, like being able to look and check in on me and be like, how are you doing with this? Is huge. So that's another thing, like, you know, watching my language and seeing how comfortable I am in a room. And just by being the person who might be able to more safely establish that something is not okay, that's amazing for me, so.
Great. Charlie, what questions would you like for folks to be asking you?
I guess it's less that and more so I mean, for me personally, I am a very open person, and I will never get mad at someone who asks me a question. It just, they also can't get mad at me when I don't answer the question or
Fair enough.
correct them in the way that they're asking something. Because I mean, someone who's asking a question obviously doesn't know, so I'm not going to get mad at them. They're trying to get that information. They're trying to like discern whether they, how to ask a question if they're not asking it correctly. And so that's kind of the way that I try and approach things. Because a lot of the times when someone asks you a question, you can discern what they're trying to ask and the information that they're trying to get, and kind of guide them in the way of either asking a better question or giving them the answer that they were actually asking for.
So reading between the lines.
Yeah, and kind of trying to, because like a lot of the times, while we as trans people are still, like, we don't even a lot of the times really understand what we're going through, we are at least a little bit more knowledgeable than the people asking the questions. A little bit. So that's a big thing. But I mean, the cardinal rule, cardinal rule.
Cardinal's with us.
I want to high five you right now, but I'm attached to the seat.
I understand. Stay sitting. We'll high five later. But so I guess the cardinal rule is if you wouldn't feel comfortable being asked this question, don't ask someone else that question. And I feel like that's something that isn't really exclusive to the trans community. I feel like that's kind of just decent behavior. So I mean, that kind of stays, keeps it within the guidelines of if you don't want someone to ask you about your genitals, don't ask someone else about their genitals.
You know what I often say is, you know, that kind of makes me uncomfortable. Well, how about you go first?
I had somebody actually go first once.
But I mean, at least then you know that you are in a climate in which if you wish to answer the question, they have already answered the question, so you'll be on even ground at that point.
That was actually the one time I thought it was fair to ask that, because he was like, well, this is mine. And I was like,
and there are trans people who are comfortable with answering those questions, but there are a lot more people who aren't comfortable answering those questions. And so, if like I said, if you aren't comfortable, if you don't want to answer the question, don't ask the question.
so legit.
Great. One of the questions I do like is when people ask me, you know, when did I know this about myself? I like that question a lot. Trieste, do you have any favorite questions you would prefer people to ask you?
I'm really open about myself in the community, online. There's really not any questions I wouldn't answer.
Okay.
I may give them more information than they wanted to hear, but I don't know. I just, once I was able to be myself finally, and I went through euphoria for years on just that alone, just able to be myself. And I'm comfortable with any question at all. I have friends that have brought their children over to meet me when I was bedridden, and that was just precious times to me. And they'd ask some questions and just give them the truth. Pretty much how I feel.
Thank you, Trusty. How about you, Hillary?
That's why I love kids. They're just curious and they're not
Yeah.
offensive. Like, it's just pure curiosity of wanting to get to
Alright.
know something. I think I would love to see the world get to a point where we just ask pronouns with introductions.
Just sort of standard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just standard practice. Hi, how are you? My name's Hillary. This is my pronoun. What's yours? You know, I think that we're not always, our expression may not always match what our pronoun is.
Sure.
You know, and I think that if we put it out there and that was just like a common thing, that would create a world of acceptance and knowledge and really wonderful things. So I think that would be a wonderful, wonderful thing.
That's terrific. Did you want to add something, Trusty?
Yeah, there is one thing I wanted to add is it's about policing language. I found out recently that political correctness started with Joseph Stalin. It was brought into the American community during the 80s under Reagan, and I still disagree with being told you can't use any word at all. And well, that's how I feel.
Well, that would be a worthwhile discussion, I think, yes. Certainly, we want to be mindful and respectful of language, but policing it, you know, that's something else altogether. And I think I'll save that for another time. So the next question, though, that I did have is, one thought I had is there's something that you wanted to share, and it didn't matter what it is, that I really hadn't asked you. And if there was something that you can't think of, I guess the question I would like to ask as well would be, you know, how would you like to leave the world a better place? And I think, Trusty, if it's all right, I'd like to start with you to answer that.
Okay. I don't know how to answer it. I just friendly, curious, empathic, and try to connect with anybody I speak to on level terms. I've traveled a lot as a child and later as an early adult. I went to 10 different schools and 11 and a half years of schooling. And I don't know, it's just always the new kid and always building friendships on multiple cliques and trying to look for me.
Thank you. Hillary, is there anything you wanted to add, or? I know you're doing a lot to change
I
the
have
world.
a cold. So I crochet leg warmers for my cats, That has nothing to do with anything, but I was trying to think, which is true, I do that. No, the way that I want to leave the world. I think, I don't know, there's been so much going on over the last week, a lot of violence, a lot of like really senseless acts that a lot of people are trying to wrap their heads around. Me and my coworker, who I just absolutely adore, Alana, I just, you know, she's one of my closest friends as well. We had a large discussion because we started hearing things. Like we put blanket statements as humans, like this is a human condition where we put blanket statements on minority groups that we don't quite understand, and they create lasting discrimination and harm. I refuse to use the word stigma. Stigma is discrimination, and let's not get that wrong. So I would like to end blanket statements by really connecting with people, like really connecting with people. What's your story? Where are you from? Like, what do you really think? What are your thoughts? What do I understand about that? And I think that changes the world. When we choose, we actively make the choice to sit down and talk and listen and really connect. It's easy, it's so easy to just use these ridiculous blanket statements that just like blast an entire population of people. Yeah, so like I'd really love to just leave the world talking and listening and hearing and curious and always learning about each other instead of assuming that we know everything and then judging for it.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Hillary. Charlie.
I think something that I would like to say is mostly that like there's I guess you don't like to use the word stigma, but I guess it's there's a lot of stereotyping and stigma surrounding people who are gender diverse, and that a lot of people in the community just want to feel special, so they're putting themselves with this tiny little identity and like trying to be this special little snowflake. And no one is like really trying to be that special little snowflake. Everyone is just trying to figure out who they are and use these words and these identities to show the rest of the world who they are and give other people perspective and like to know what they're doing and to see who they are, and like we give these identities so that other people can understand us, and we don't give them because we want to be different. We want to we just want to be with everyone. We're all individuals. No one is the same as anyone else, and trying to tell these people that, oh, you're just being a special little snowflake. You need to stop being so special, or you need to fit in. It's like, no one needs to fit in. You don't need to fit in. The person who is saying that you just need to fit in doesn't need to fit in, because everyone is different. And I mean, we all yearn to be a part of the collective of everyone, and just wanting to be accepted by everyone. And so like trying to put other people down for saying who they are it's not going to get anyone anywhere. It's just going to make people more upset and try and be part of the community even harder. Like, honestly, is what it does, and it just makes people feel bad, and like, it doesn't get us anywhere. It leaves us stagnant. It leaves us just an unstoppable force up against an unbreakable wall, and until one side is just like, I'm just gonna not do this anymore because I don't want to. Like, we all need to just be together, and like until we stop fighting that, I mean, it's not going to get anywhere. And so if people just start to understand that everyone is wanting the exact same thing.
Let me make sure I'm understanding this. So we are unique and different.
Yeah.
But we do want to be part of something.
Our individual, like each person is different in the way that they go about their life and the way that they go about the way that like they're experiencing things. But I mean, we all just want to be loved.
Yes, we all want to be loved. Yes, we do. Mayo.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way Charlie does. Like for me, this idea of difference being for some people and not for others, you know, instead of this idea that like every single one of us is different. Like gender
It's hard to
diversity.
wrap your head around.
Yeah, like gender diversity does not just exist within a gender diverse population. Like
Right,
I love that.
Right.
like gender diversity is, you know, you take, you know, 10 women, you know, born women, identify as women, no one of them is going to express their femininity in the same way as any other. Each person knows what their own gender means to them. And so this idea that like gender diversity is for every single person, and that when we accept that each one of us is different, then we have that in common.
Right.
We have individuality in common as one group of people. And yeah, I'm totally with you. That's the concept that just like lights up my mind. And I'm like, yes, we're all different people, and if we can get to know one another within, you know, the mandala of self, then there's nothing threatening about difference, because we're each an individual, and that brings us together.
To embrace it, it's kind of fun. You
It's,
know,
I think it's
fun.
something that I would add to what I'm grateful for is like the realization that everyone is different. And once you realize that, I mean, you can accept people for who they are once you realize that I'm different from you and you're accepting me, so I'm going to accept you because we're different.
Yeah.
Like just
I rather enjoy it. I don't want us all to be the same anyways, so
a bit boring.
Unique, just like everybody else.
yes,
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
yes, yes.
Sorry.
This has been a great panel. I feel that I've learned a tremendous amount just listening to everybody tell a portion of their truth tonight, and I really appreciate that. I don't know if there's anything else anybody would like to add. We still have a bit more time, so I thought we would talk a little longer. Let's not freeze. Did you finally figure out maybe what you had, the thought that sort of got lost that you wanted to add?
No.
No? Not going to make it easy, are you? I actually am impressed because Trieste, I mean, you came out when there was no awareness.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
96.
96. And I know I waited, you know, till I was 42. And so we're kind of older in this crowd. We got a young crowd here. How was that for you? I mean, in the environment, you're sort of a pioneer.
For me, I was totally bedridden because of having over 1,600 pounds of wood fall on me from 12 feet up. And to try to get a doctor to treat me, I would have to call an ambulance, they pull me onto a gurney, take me to the appointments. Many times doctors' offices are so small and tight, I'd have to be up at an angle, which was very hard for me, made me lightheaded and nauseous. I don't know.
I know for me, I really do admire like the children or adolescents or young people who are able to come forward and claim who they are. I was born in 1970, and I didn't know of anyone doing that. I never heard of that, and I internalized, that I was a freak, and I really spent my life, believing those things. And fortunately, I think that we're all right now in this moment making the world a better place for everyone. And I would hope that no one who is out there struggling with this issue has to do it for another second. It is just a horrible thing to go through, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So I know for me, there's been a tremendous freedom in being true with who I am. And I wouldn't take it back, even though I have myself experienced quite a bit of rejection.
Me too.
There's almost that, you can't go back. It's so freeing. It's so liberating. There's no way I would go back to the way I was. They can go in the closet. I'm out. So, like, I'm out.
I purged many times growing up where I had some female clothes and I just, oh, I'm never going to do this again. It's wrong, it's evil. Get rid of all the clothes and then go buy them again. And when I finally came to self-acceptance and came out to everyone, I just purged everything male and no second thoughts, no regrets. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. I think that we learned a tremendous amount tonight. The program was for you to open your hearts and minds, and I hope that you do. These are your friends, your neighbors, and your coworkers. So thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.